Hello and welcome once again to the video. As usual, continuing my look at each and every race in the 2024 Formula One World Championship. Just a casual look from purely from a fan's perspective. I've been a fan for many decades, but still just a fan. No particular technical insights. Just a fan's view of how each race went. So let's put down a bit of a wobble there, sorry about that. Okay, so this was round 4, which was Japan and Suzuka. Now, what I'll do, that's my usual routine of writing down the finishing order of the 20 drivers and then top 10 in the Drivers' Championship, and then the rundown of the 10 teams in the Constructors' Championship. Okay, let's go. So first, Verstappen, Perez, Sainz, Leclerc, Norris. Let's just make sure that is in focus. Okay, so 6th, Alonso, 7th, Russell, 8th, Piastri, 9th, Hamilton, 10th, Tsunoda, 11th, Hulkenberg, 12th, Stroll, 13th, Magnussen, 14th, Bottas, Ocon, Gasly, Sargent, Joe, Ricardo, Albon. Okay, and then the Drivers' Championship rundown. We've got let's make sure that's also focused. Okay, so he has 77. 64. Perez. Leclerc 59. Sainz 55. Norris 37. Piastri 32. Okay, let's just make sure that's good. 7th. Aston 24. 8th. Alonso 24. 9th. Hamilton on 10. 10th. Stroll 9. Okay. Now the Constructors' Championship. We've got Redbull on 41. Ferrari 120. McLaren 69. Mercedes 34. Aston Martin 33. Okay, and then we've got RB 7. Haas 4. Williams 0. Sauber 0. Alpine 0. Okay. So what did we think of that race? First of all, let me put down the fastest lap. Max Verstappen. Well, okay. There was a race like this last year, I remember, and felt very similar to this. A race that had lots of overtaking, but felt flat, as if there wasn't really much going on. It's a strange feeling, but I have the same feeling for this race. For me, the race was very flat and somewhat uninteresting. I mean, I'm a big Formula One fan, so I will always find it interesting watching Formula One cars go around. I mean, I tried to watch all of the 24 hours of testing in February, so I just love watching them go around, even if it is a less interesting race. But that doesn't mean that I wouldn't prefer it to be a little bit more interesting. It felt to me like all of the overtaking manoeuvres, just like, I can't remember the race, but there was one last year. I can't remember what it was, but it just felt like all the overtaking manoeuvres were just cars adjusting themselves, putting themselves into the correct order, going by what their strategy was, rather than actual genuine fights for position. I mean, we had Perez did a couple of good manoeuvres, and what's the name of that corner? 30R or something, isn't it? A famous corner at Suzuka. And he did a couple of good overtaking manoeuvres through there. Norris did a couple of good overtaking manoeuvres around the outside of turn 1, I think. But on those occasions, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was pretty much down to being on a much fresher tyre or a completely different tyre compound, like a fresh medium as opposed to a tired old hard. So many of the overtaking manoeuvres just looked simple, like they were driving past parked cars. What we weren't seeing was a genuine scrap for position. Not much anyway, until the end when we had Russell and Piastri going for it. That was very much scrapping for position. We didn't even see the two Ferraris fight. At the end, Leclerc clearly just let Sainz through. Earlier, Hamilton volunteered to let Russell through because Hamilton knew that he was quite a bit slower. So he actually volunteered to let Russell through. So yes, lots of overtaking manoeuvres, but not really a lot going on. The only two interesting fights for position were, as I say, Russell and Piastri at the end, and right at the very beginning, Ricciardo and Albon. Whose fault was that? See, I tend to think it's mostly Ricciardo's fault. The commentators were saying a racing incident, and yeah, officially it seems to have been put down as a racing incident. I'm not aware of any penalties. It was right at the start of the race, so normally they always put it down to a race incident. But for me, if you have to apportion blame, it has to be, I think, Ricciardo, because he did drift. He was staying on the racing line going into turn 3, but he should have looked in his side mirrors. I think when you're in that position and you're surrounded by cars and you're on only the third corner of the race, cars everywhere, surely you're going to be looking in your mirrors, left, right, constantly all the time, aren't you, going into a corner? But at the same time, Albon was taking a big risk by going on the outside of Ricciardo when Ricciardo already had Stroll threatening, not overtaking him on the inside, but not even coming alongside, but threatening as if he was going to come up the inside of Ricciardo. So really Albon should have thought, hang a minute, I don't want to get involved in this because it looks like Stroll and Ricciardo are going to be jostling for that third corner. So I won't get involved. Instead, Albon did get involved. So yes, I think it's Ricciardo's error, but on the track. But I think Albon did have an error of judgment. Basically, I don't think he should have put his car in that position. Basically, but yeah, officially a racing incident. I think it was put down to. I see that Alonso went for softs right at the very start, didn't he? Just like he did, I think he did that in Australia. He was the only one of the top 10 or something that started on softs. And I think that worked quite well for him. Did he stay on softs for the restart? I can't remember if he stayed on. I think he stayed on softs for the restart. But he had a very strong race anyway, coming home in 6th position. Good, consistent performance. He thinks that's one of his best ever races. I think that's saying something when he's been around for 20 years. I don't think it's one of his best ever races, but he thinks it is, and he's a better judge of his races than me. Mercedes started on hards. Well, actually, on the original start, they were on mediums, and then they were the only ones certainly of the top 5 in the championship, top 5 teams in the championship. They were the only ones to go on to hards for the restart. It gave them flexibility. It meant that they could do a 1-stop or a 2-stop because they would have already used 2 compounds, the mediums for the first couple of laps, and then after the restart, the hards. So it meant that they could go hards, and just have 1 stop. Unfortunately, it didn't work. The tyre degradation was too great, and they had to stop a second time anyway. And of course, by then, They did it the wrong way round, unfortunately. They went hards, mediums. Everyone else pretty much did mediums, hards. And it seemed like the hard tyre worked best towards the end of the race, in like the last 15, 20 laps. That's when the hards, for everybody, pretty much, seemed to be best. Which was a shame for Mercedes. So that strategy didn't work for them. Terrible, really. Although Toto Wolff remained, relatively positive after the race, strangely, saying that the car is making big improvements and the result doesn't reflect where the car is. So that's good to hear, because he normally comes across anyway as if he's quite honest. So I think that's genuinely what he thinks. Now Leclerc, he managed to make the one stop work, of course, didn't he? Fantastic. I might put that down here, actually. Shall I put that one stop? A one stop worked. Exclamation mark. Yeah, he did fantastically well. He started on the medium and he went further than the Mercedes did on their hards. Leclerc stayed out longer and wasn't losing tons of time either. And then he stopped later, went on to hards and finished fourth. It's a very good performance. So driver of the day, certainly when it comes to race management, not time management, I guess, but we'll encompass it all by saying race management. I think Leclerc is the driver of the day. Sainz, look at that, still upholding my prediction at the start of the year when I said that Sainz would beat Leclerc this year because he's so hyped up over losing his drive. I think he's looking at this season as a shot to nothing. Just go out there and just do your stuff and see what happens. Don't worry about trying to hang on to your seat because you've already lost it. So I think that's made Sainz more relaxed, and he's one of only two drivers alongside Verstappen that has yet to finish a race off the podium. In fact, he's the only driver to have finished every race he's started this year on the podium. So, fantastic performance. A win and 2 third places. Very good. And he's right on Leclerc now. Right with him. Fantastic performance, Sainz. Very good performance. And when you consider that the last 2 races he would have been affected by the after effects of his operation. Anyway, certainly in Australia. The McLarens, they tried an aggressive 2-stop. They tried to come in earlier than the other 2 stoppers, but it didn't work out because it just meant they had to do a much longer last stint, much longer than, say, Sainz, 10 laps longer than Sainz. So that backfired badly, but they still got 5th and 8th. It's still not bad. 5th is not bad considering that the Redbull and the Ferrari are the 2 best cars, probably still at the moment. So 5th, you could argue that the best McLaren could really do is 5th and 6th. So 5th and 8th is all right. Tsunoda, it's fantastic. 10th place, yet another point. Got 7 now. 7 points. Very good. On home soil. He's driving very well at the moment. It's all down to confidence. That's all it is. It's not because he's suddenly become more talented or he's suddenly discovered how to, drive around corners faster or something. It's got nothing to do with talent or his skill or his style on the track. It's all to do with confidence. And ever since he was signed up for 2024 last year, and about halfway through the year, or September or something, AlphaTauri signed him up for 2024, extended his contract. Ever since then, he's been, right from the very next race after his contract was signed, he's been super good straight away. Some people, that might affect their confidence in a negative way, because they might feel the pressure. Oh, the team are putting so much confidence in me. They're saying I can do it. They're saying, we're fully backing you 100%. And that might just make you sweat more so and go the other way. But not with Tsunoda. That's boosted his confidence. This is all down to confidence. Because they're all very talented. They can all drive these cars fast. Just like with most sports, it's a mental game. That final little edge that makes you better is down to your mental situation and mental strength. Sargent, well, he had an accident at the end. It's clearly, well, as far as I can see, it's clearly his fault. He went on the curb, going round a corner on the inside of the corner, and that gave him a wrong line going round the next bend, which put him even more on that curb, which meant that he couldn't turn into the next bend, which meant he went off. So it's just emphasising more and more so that I think Sargent's gone at the end of the year. Ricciardo didn't get to show anything because of his accident with Albon. Joe, what happened with Joe? Did he have a gearbox problem or something? I think, yeah, he retired, didn't he? Of course, yeah. Bottas, well, Bottas didn't have any sticking wheel nuts or anything like that during pit stops this time. He had normal pit stops, normal length pit stops. Still not great though. Stroll, 12th. That's very depressing for him, with Alonso all the way up there in 6th. Perez, everyone banging on about what a strong weekend he's had. Yes, it was stronger. He only just missed out on pole, but Verstappen was quick to say that he made a mistake in qualifying. So he was still on pole, but not by as much. Verstappen said that in Australia. Verstappen was on pole in Australia, and yet after qualifying and during qualifying, Verstappen was saying, I can't drive round corners. There's a problem with my car. I can't get around the corners. And he still got pole position. But Perez, I just feel he needs to get out of Red Bull. He really does, because he's just almost like a slave in Team Verstappen, isn't he? And I suspect Verstappen would probably say, oh, I want Perez as my teammate. But that's not a compliment, of course. That's always an insult. Because what you're saying is, I can beat this guy, so I want him as my teammate. It's definitely not a compliment. When people say that about their teammate. Hamilton, yeah, he was very quick in the final stint on those mediums, but the two early, same with Russell, but the two early stints were the bad ones. Now, Russell, Piastri, they had a ding-dong, didn't they, that reminded me of 1989 when Senna went up the inside of Prost and then Prost moved across on him. Was it the same chicane? I don't know if that chicane exists anymore from 1989. I'm not sure, but it's very similar. This chicane is right at the end of where it happened in this race was right at the end of the lap. I'm not sure if that's the same one, but it reminded me of that. Russell throwing it up the inside. He was 75-80% alongside Piastri. So even though it was an aggressive move by Russell at a corner that you wouldn't normally overtake, he was still fully alongside, and in my opinion, most definitely, Piastri should have backed off, basically, and let him go through. It's difficult, though, because that's not a corner where you would normally overtake. So you know, I can sort of like cut Piastri a bit of slack there. I mean, Russell was asking for trouble going up the inside like that, but in the end there was no big accident, which was good. Yeah, and then of course he got him a short time after that, didn't he? Around the outside, I think. And just on the, a few corners later, basically, he got Piastri. These cars, Alonso, Russell, Piastri, Hamilton, were all quite close together at the end. But I have to say, it was overall, I think it was just a bit of a flat race for me. Verstappen's 475th win just this year, I think. Championship-wise, look at this, Hamilton. Oh my goodness, 10 points. But he has actually gone up because he went into this race 10th in the championship. He's now 9th. So he's leapfrogged Stroll. But it's terrible, isn't it? Norris, not in his normal 6th place, strangely. Norris normally tracks 6th spot in the championship all year. But not at the moment. He's very close to it, though. Perez is not in the championship. I won't hear anyone say that, basically. He's definitely not. If he was in a different team, he would be back to his old self, and he would be driving fantastically well, and then he might get himself into contention in a championship. But it's not going to happen in Team Verstappen. He's got 2 Verstappens he's up against, not just Max, but Jos as well, Max's dad, who seems to have quite a powerful position within the team for some crazy reason. Over here, of course, you've still got the big divide between the top 5 and the bottom 5. But look at Mercedes, 34 points. They're getting worse. Their best season of the last 3 was 2022, when they had all the porpoising. It's, they won a race in 2022. Ferrari, close to Red Bull, but of course, that was helped by Australia, which was a big swap around in points between the 2 teams. McLaren, solid. McLaren should be happy with 3rd. If they finish 3rd in the championship this year, they should be happy with that, because they haven't been as high as that for a long time. Probably 2008 was the last time they were in the top 3 in the Constructors' Championship. Alpine, oh dear. Williams keep smashing up their cars. All 3 of these teams I feel for, but particularly Williams and Alpine, because this is the old Benetton team, and Tolman team before that. And Williams, they did well last year. They scored 27 points, I think, last year. And they must have thought they were going to have a better year this year, but it's not going that way. But all of these teams, especially Alpine, will be hoping that they do what McLaren did last year with their upgrade, when their car was suddenly twice as fast after the upgrade. Okay, so that's it really. A bit of a flat race for me, I have to say. Apart from Piastri and Russell jousting at the end. All the other overtakes, I think, were just down to different strategies and different tyre compounds. Right, so thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. If you'd like to subscribe, please do so, or leave a comment, or leave a like, or leave a tip even on the thanks button below the video. But basically, thank you for watching and listening. And I will see you, hopefully, or you'll see me, hopefully, on the very next video. Thank you very much, and goodbye for now.